but please don't. I should inform you that she also has a master's in English, so phew. Now, the relevance of this dual academic identity will become very relevant, I promise. Boasting a Polish and Ukrainian heritage, Aleksandra Zaparucha's career spans the entire gamut of the teaching profession, from primary to higher education, from teacher training to materials writing. Her two professional loves, geography and English, merged into one some 15 years ago when she began teaching geography in a bilingual school. Since then, Aleksandra has become a renowned expert in CLIL, or Content and Language Integrated Learning. 2019 marks a new milestone in Aleksandra's career as she celebrates 30 years in the teaching profession. We hope her experience here at IATEFL in Liverpool will go some way towards making it an extra special year for her. So without further ado, talking to you about the whys and wherefores of CLIL, please give a very warm IATEFL welcome to Aleksandra Zaparucha. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Rose, for the introduction, and thank you, IATEFL, for having me here. It's an honor and privilege, but also a huge challenge. The first IATEFL conference I took part in was in 2013. It happened to be here in Liverpool, so to some extent, it feels like coming back home. And I remember sitting in this very lecture hall, somewhere there at the top, listening to the opening plenary. It was also then that I presented my workshop on global issues, Can Blue Jeans Be Green? One of the participants was Margit Sestai, then the head of the Global Issues SIG. My presence here is largely down to her. It seems that my slides are not running. Not sure what I've done. Thank you. I love technology when it works. Gone. Oops. Okay, I hope it's just a little bit of a problem in the beginning, and now everything is going to be smooth. So before moving on, I'd like to share my great take from this conference so far. It's the idea of teacher empowerment Paula Rebolledo talked about on Tuesday. I do hope you will feel empowered today to introduce some of the ideas I'm going to present here into your teaching practice, not only to challenge your students, like the one in the picture, but also to empower them. So in their name, a great thank you for your being in Liverpool today and taking part in talks, workshops, seminars for your professional development. Unfortunately, I can offer you only this bunch of virtual tulips and not a real pay rise you all deserve. As you may remember, the title of my presentation is Under One Roof, Considerations on Integrating Content and Language. If you are wondering whether this title means CLIL, you are absolutely right. Maybe you have heard about CLIL, maybe you are thinking of doing it, or maybe you are practicing it. Thus, before we discuss what CLIL has to offer to language teachers, can you please turn to a person on your right or left, or a person behind you or in front of you, introduce yourself and share one thing that you know about CLIL. You've got about 30 seconds.
I do.
I wonder if that's the problem.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. It seems you know a lot. 30 seconds is not enough. So during my presentation, I would like you to keep in mind this picture. It represents 3 words. Can you guess what they are? Well, this one represents connections between what I'm going to be talking about and what you already know about CLIL. In some cases, I hope to be able to extend your knowledge of CLIL, so extensions. And most importantly, I hope to be able to challenge some of your perceptions of CLIL. This plenary is going to address 4 issues related to CLIL, and they are as follows. First, I'm going to talk about what CLIL is, followed by why and how to deliver it, and finally, what content to include in general English classes. This last part is going to be based on 3 specific examples related to global issues. As you see, the closure is going to be delivered in a poetic form. I come from the city of Toruń in Poland. This city has a special significance as it is the birthplace of a famous astronomer you must have heard about, Nicolaus Copernicus. He is credited with the development of the heliocentric theory, which put the sun in the center of our planetary system. Historians also suppose Copernicus spoke 4 languages. Can you take a moment to think what they were and share your thoughts with your partner, please? Okay, thank you. Not sure which languages you mentioned, but I'm going to talk about them right now. Well, his family spoke German, but in the 15th century, when Copernicus was born, Toruń was a bilingual city with both German and Polish widely used. So scientists assume he must have been bilingual from his early days. In his later life, he spent 10 years at universities in Italy. So we may conclude he also spoke Italian. So what was his 4th language, though? You must have guessed this one. It was Latin, the language of education and lingua franca of Europe in the Middle Ages. Although we cannot talk about CLIL in this case, we can realize that education in a language that is not native to the students is not a new concept. So time to move to the first part of this CLIL presentation, that is, what? What is CLIL? There are various terms used to describe the situation when content and language are integrated. Here are some of them. Besides CLIL, we may read about English medium instruction, or EMI, bilingual education, various forms of foreign language immersion, or English across the curriculum, just to name a few. According to Coyle, Hood and Marsh, CLIL can be seen as an umbrella term, which means the term CLIL can be used in all the situations where the integration of content and language learning takes place. So everything is CLIL. This approach, although might be useful, has some serious limitations. If every situation of content and language integration is called CLIL, then specifying CLIL methodology and giving support to subject teachers becomes a real challenge. Thus, why not consider CLIL methodology as a support in all the situations when we combine content and language, just like in this picture? So CLIL methodology as a support. To recap, CLIL methodology can offer guidance to all the teachers involved in teaching content through a foreign language, whether these are subject teachers or language teachers, and whether they are involved in EMI or immersion or any other educational situation. Now, as we know how we can position CLIL in relation to other instances of combining content and language, let's consider its definition. According to the authors of this definition, Ball, Clegg and Kelly, CLIL is a method where non-linguistic content, that is, school subjects like geography, mathematics, music or chemistry, are merged with a language that is not native to the students. It comprises all such situations in and outside the classroom. Most importantly, the aim is not, and even cannot be, to treat subjects and languages equally, but rather to enable students use the language effectively to express those subjects. Specialist literature on CLIL discusses a number of CLIL types. For the purpose of this talk, we will consider just two. The first one is as follows. So what type of CLIL can be described like that? Taking place in a subject class, taught by a subject teacher, and following the subject curriculum. Well, you are right thinking it's the so-called hard CLIL. Now let's look at the description of the second one. Taught in a language class by a language teacher, but still based on the subject curriculum. And let me say that again, a language class, for example, of English, a language teacher, for example, an English teacher, but still subject-driven. This is the so-called soft CLIL, and this is what is at the core of this presentation. So as language teachers, you might wonder why CLIL has become a buzz term recently. So to answer the question, you might consider the shape of modern education. The majority of school systems around the world are based on subjects, physics, history, biology. Yet knowledge is a unity. It is uncountable. It includes all the information we possess. The idea of chopping this knowledge into discipline is a 19th century construct. And as the world is becoming more and more complex, school systems are trying to close the gaps between subject curricula by offering cross-curricular modules. So as a geography teacher, I can find connections to all other school subjects: chemistry, physics, mathematics, biology, even fine arts, all but foreign languages. Thus, CLIL modules, also those taught during general English classes, might be a great way of bridging this curricular gap. Secondly, by shifting the focus from grammar and vocabulary to other subject curricula, we can show our students that language is a tool rather than a goal in itself. And instead of waiting for this language usefulness to appear after school, students can engage in conducting science experiments or studying historical events in the target language right now. CLIL might also be a powerful tool in an English teacher's hands when it comes to motivation. One of my best English lessons as a high school student was when I had a chance to channel my passion for geography by preparing a presentation for my class on the physical geography of the British Isles, its geology, major landforms, water bodies, and weather patterns. I highly enjoyed preparing and delivering this presentation, but you might imagine the impact it might have had on my entire class had this very lesson been related to the topic actually being covered in the geography course at the same time. There is one issue more, and it is something I would call content and language unity. There is no content without language, and there is no language without some content. What does that mean? Well, I would like you to study this slide, and, well, can you recognize any subjects, school subjects from the pictures there? Tell your partner, please. Okay, thank you. I suppose that was not a huge challenge for you. The subjects represented here are biology, music, chemistry, physics, history, mathematics, history of art, and geography. So how do you know which subjects are there? Well, your subject teacher had to teach you the language of those subjects. So as a geography teacher, I was responsible for teaching my students the language of geography. River estuary, hanging valley, glacial till, millstone grid, just to list a few terms from the physical geography. Similarly, foreign language teachers are also content teachers. In fact, I would dare say you are all geography teachers. You teach about the weather, that's climatology. You teach about holiday destinations, that's the geography of tourism. You teach about means of transport, that's the geography of transport. You also teach about sport, history, culture, literature, modern technologies, environmental issues, and many more. And when doing so, I'm sure you do not compromise the content for the sake of grammar correctness. And then you would mark this sentence as incorrect, even if grammatically perfect. And even if we wish that Liverpool did have a subtropical climate. So there is no content without language, and there is no language without content. In hard CLIL, subject teachers still need to teach the language of their subjects, although this time it is done in a foreign language. Likewise, in soft CLIL, language teachers continue teaching content, but in connection to the actual curriculum of a given subject, and not randomly. So we have looked at what CLIL is and why to teach it. Why English teachers might consider introducing it. So time to move to the third part of this talk, that is, how to do it. You might have heard of the 4 C's that are to be considered when preparing and conducting a CLIL lesson. And these are as follows. Content means the subjects we are teaching. Communication, of course, refers to the language of instruction, while cognition to the thinking skills to be used. The last C refers to culture. In this model, all 4 C's are given equal importance. However, as a subject teacher, I remember struggling with this approach, specifically with the last C. As a result, I would like to offer a slightly different approach to the 4 C's. We might consider these 3 C's as equal parts of a wheel. So you might ask, where is the 4th C? Well, the way we communicate, whether in a native language or in a foreign one, depends on culture. The content we teach and learn also depends on culture. Just think of any course in history. Likewise, the way we think is tightly connected to the culture in which we grew up. That is why it seems better to present it in the form of a circle around those 3 C's. Since the 4 C's were proposed, quite a lot of new publications have appeared on the market. One of them is Putting CLIL into Practice by Phil Ball, John Clegg, and Keith Kelly, published in 2015. It is a comprehensive publication on CLIL that directly addresses soft CLIL for language teachers and not only hard CLIL for subject teachers. In their book, the authors offer all teachers, 10 detailed CLIL parameters rather than 4 Cs. However, the 4 Cs of CLIL and the 10 CLIL parameters do not have to be viewed in opposition to each other. On the contrary, they can be merged into one CLIL wheel, like this. So what are those 10 parameters? Let's consider the content first. Those parameters are kind of obvious for subject teachers, but might be a bit of a challenge for language teachers. The first parameter refers to a content sequence. Teaching content subjects is based on a specific order of information. For example, in geography, before students are asked to use maps, they need to be taught what a map is. Such a sequence is also desirable in the case of soft CLIL, so a series of lessons rather than just one. For instance, if the students are covering the Industrial Revolution in their history course, they could be looking at some specific issues of that same period of time during their English classes. The second parameter suggests that the concept we want to teach dictates the language to be used. This means we should not compromise the content for the sake of the language. For example, a course in history needs to be based on past tenses, whether the students have had the formal introduction to such grammar structures or not. Similarly, the specific task we want the students to perform dictates the language to be used. The next parameter refers to the need for guided multimedia input. The use of multimedia does not come as a surprise in the 21st century. However, it should be carefully planned, staged, and guided so as not to add to the students' confusion. The next parameter looks at the 3 specific dimensions of CLIL. The first 2 are content and language, but what is this third one? The third one is a procedure to be used in the lesson. So what could that be? The teacher might ask students to use a text to construct a mind map or a Venn diagram. If it is a new thing for the students, the procedure itself needs to get a lot of attention. On the other hand, if a lesson is exceptionally heavy in terms of new vocabulary, the teacher needs to consider giving extra language support. For instance, talking about the structure of an animal cell, we need to include all new vocabulary to name the cell organelles, no matter how tough. Last but not least, if the content itself poses an extra challenge to the students, the teacher should opt for a simple procedure. For instance, when introducing the causes and effects of the Earth's yearly rotation around the Sun, challenging content in itself, I would need to make sure I do not introduce a new procedure. So to sum up, every CLIL lesson requires specific tuning into those 3 dimensions. By looking into this parameter, we have swiftly moved from the C for content to the C for communication, that is, language. These parameters pose the greatest challenge for subject teachers, but are not surprising for language teachers. The first one refers to key language. It's language that needs extra attention in a CLIL lesson. It is not limited, however, to technical or academic terms like omnivore or static electricity. It also includes general academic terms like observe or hypothesize, as well as grammar structures such as simple past for teaching history or passive voice when used in science. The next parameter refers to the language of instructions. A CLIL teacher should be exceptionally careful when giving instructions, as they might pose an extra burden on the students. So, staged, short, clear, written on the screen, and the like. The next parameter is about the need for student-student interaction. A CLIL lesson should offer students loads of opportunities to use the academic language they are learning through pair work, group work, discussions, and so on. The last communication parameter refers to student output. Producing language, both oral and written, requires a CLIL teacher to give a lot of support, for instance, through sentence starters, substitution tables, or graphic organizers. The last parameter satisfies the third C in the fourth C's, cognition. So learning a subject in a foreign language requires student engagement, both physical and mental. All these 10 parameters, as well as 3 C's, are immersed in culture. So far, we have dealt with what, why, and how of CLIL. So now it's time to look at the next point of this presentation, that is, what to teach. There are loads of opportunities for language teachers here. For instance, you might consider talking to subject teachers teaching the same students. They might suggest some topics that would help close this curricular gap mentioned before. However, there is another option. As promised in the introduction, I would like to offer 3 suggestions for helping to extend the English course books you are already using to include global issues. Why should we be doing that? There is a number of reasons to include global issues in foreign language teaching, including to inform, develop skills, change attitudes, and help take action. Why is it crucial we help students take action and not just inform or develop their skills? Well, we have changed our planet so much that the International Union of Geological Sciences is seriously considering changing the name of the present geological period from Holocene to Anthropocene, or the human epoch. We have changed the sequence of geological strata permanently, hence the term. Just think about the mining industry that has removed strata from mineral resources, or nuclear tests that have left radioactive traces all over the globe. And let's not forget about the largest threats to humanity at the moment, climate change and plastic waste. All around this convention center, you can see a great outdoor exhibition showing Britain from the air. One of the notes there says that by 2035, the UK is predicted to spend £25 billion on coastal defences as a result of climate change. Moreover, by 2080, the cost of flooding damage is going to rise from £1.1 billion a year to £27 billion a year. At the same time, the UK throws away 2.5 billion disposable coffee cups every year, but less than 1% of them are recycled. So I do hope you are using the reusable cups provided by one of the conference sponsors. As you see, we have every reason to include global issues, not only in EFL, but throughout entire education systems. So topics you might take into consideration as EFL teachers include food, clothes, and waste. Although I will be looking at them from the European and Western perspective, I'm sure that everyone will find some of them relevant to the context they are teaching in. So let's look at the first one, food. So what are the traditional topics covered within this theme? English course books include lessons on types of foods, recipes, diets, etc. And how about extending this theme to the issue of food miles? What are those food miles? Let's look at this photo for a moment. I took it in 2010 in a supermarket in Doha, the capital of Qatar, on the Persian Gulf. What do we know about this state? It is rich in crude oil and natural gas, which gives it the highest gross domestic product per person in the world. However, Qatar lacks fertile soils. As a result, it imports all its food products, in the case of this photo, grapes and apples from Lebanon and apples from Syria. So let's look now at the political map of the world, like this. It is based on the information I collected while shopping there. The red dot is Qatar. All the blue dots indicate the countries from which Qatar imports food. The list includes New Zealand and Australia for meat, Chile, the USA and China for apples, the Philippines for mangoes, Saudi Arabia for potatoes, the Netherlands for berries, just to name a few. Using computer software, we can calculate the amount of carbon dioxide produced by the import of each item on the supermarket shelves. Yet another piece of information from the outdoor exhibition, Britain from the Air. Although the UK does produce apples, it also imports them, mainly from New Zealand and South Africa. The carbon footprint connected with their transport is 200 grams of CO2 per 1 kilogram of apples, which is 10 times more when compared to the locally produced apples. So if you decide to work on a food mile project with your students, you can ask them to prepare a similar map and try and calculate the impact of food import on climate change. And the goal here is not to shame young people that they consume food imported from distant places. It is to make them aware of the issue and help them make informed choices when shopping for food. It is just one of the food topics to consider, but how about some others? For example, young people might be interested in new apps helping limit food waste. There is an app for restaurant chefs that helps plan their food orders, or another one to help people donate uneaten food products to local people in need. Or they might be interested in the project helping supermarkets sell less than ideal fruit and vegetables. Or you might explore the idea of slow food as the opposition to fast food, a topic which may lead to studying all things slow, like slow cities, slow fashion, and even slow journalism and slow education. The last might be really interesting. The next global issue worth thinking about is clothes. Here, typical topics include clothes types and patterns, textiles, shopping for clothes, or fashion. So why not extend it to the theme of clothes production? Can you take a moment and consider what goes into a pair of jeans? I would like you to share your thoughts with a partner. What goes into a pair of jeans? Okay, thank you. You can check on this slide. Fertilizers, soil, and water are connected with growing cotton. Natural cotton fabric is gray, so dyes and chemicals to get the blue color, or any other color. This process also requires loads of water. Metals for zips and buttons. Crude oil if they are made of plastic, animal skin for leather belts and labels, and energy at every stage of production. On the top of that, transport at every stage of production too, as a pair of jeans requires the cooperation of at least 10 countries. Now, what about other clothes-related topics? How about extending the jeans lesson to tops and t-shirts, or the idea of slow fashion I have already mentioned. Or maybe the students could be looking at the human factor in clothes production. Who produces a pair of jeans or a cotton t-shirt, and at what cost? And who buys it and for what price? these issues could swiftly take us to economic inequalities. As with food, the lessons on clothes are not to make students stop buying them. They are, however, to make them aware of what goes into a pair of jeans or who produces these nice t-shirts, and thus help them make informed decisions when shopping. These lessons might also lead to organizing a whole school clothes swap shop, or might encourage students to donate clothes to those in need, like the homeless. Now, time to move to the last global issue topic, waste. Although waste is rarely studied directly as a general English theme, it is closely connected to the two discussed before. First, I would like you to study the following map. It shows the location of over 30 documented landfill fires across Poland in June last year. The real number was possibly close to 70. They caused an outrage among environmentalists and regular citizens alike. But what was the reason for those landfill fires? Again, take a moment to think about it and share it with your partner. Okay, thank you. That will be very interesting to know your ideas. But now think of the connection between this map and the following information. So what might be the connection, you are possibly asking yourself, between the map and this piece of news? Well, China introduced this ban at very short notice. As a result, Western countries, including the UK, had to quickly decide what to do with their waste, ready for shipment to China. In the end, landfills across Poland were illegally set on fire to make space for the unwanted waste from the West European countries. The fires sent tons of toxins into the air. And mind you, air quality in Poland has been an issue anyway. Out of the 50 dirtiest towns and cities in the EU, 36 are in Poland. This activity is to show young people that pollution knows no borders, that we are in it together, and then there is a connection between air quality in my city and a political decision taken in a distant country. We can then invite students to take part in a waste project like this one, offered by the Trashed World, a global schools exchange program on waste. It is ready teaching material in English, based on a documentary narrated by Jeremy Irons. You can find the full film on YouTube. Thanks to it, you can find like-minded teachers and help students take action in their local environment. Of course, the internet offers lots of other ready materials on global issues. For instance, you can find loads of materials on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The official United Nations website includes a very interesting material entitled A Lazy Person's Guide to Saving the World. Something young people might be interested in, and the teachers as well. You can use the book compiled by the members of the C Group and published by the British Council on a creative approach to the Sustainable Development Goals in an EFL classroom. Last but not least, I'm going to submit ready handouts based on the 3 topics discussed today, that is, food, clothes, and waste, to the Global Issues SIG. I'd like to finish this talk with a poem. It is entitled Teacher and was written by Alan Maley. As it is a dialogue, I need your help. Can you please read all together the lines in black? And I'm going to read the answers. Ready? Okay, off you go. I'm a teacher. People. English. That too. Well, I also try to teach them how to think and feel, show them inspiration, aspiration, cooperation, participation, consolation, innovation. Help them think about globalization, exploitation, confrontation, incarceration, discrimination, degradation, subjugation. How inequality brings poverty, how intolerance brings violence, how need is denied by greed, how isms become prisons, how thinking and feeling can bring about healing. But if I did that, I'd be a cheater, not a teacher. This goes to the author, of course. So thank you very much. That's been the most powerful poem reading I've ever heard and seen. And to reflect, I would like us to go back to this picture. Think of all your connections, extensions, and challenges related to CLIL you experienced during this presentation. Once again, connections, extensions, and challenges. And I would like you to share one of each with your partner. Take your time. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I must say I would be very much interested in hearing your challenges, especially this part. Now, if you would like to ask some questions about CLIL or share your reflections related to global issues, please join me during my Q&A session in room 3B at 11:05. And I would like, once again, thank you for participating in this plenary. Virtual tulips. And I, of course, mean everyone here in this lecture hall in Liverpool and everyone who joined us online. This is the list of sources I mentioned in this presentation. And last but not least, my contact details. Enjoy the rest of the conference and happy CLILing. Thank you.
Thank you, Aleksandra. A wonderful presentation, as I'm sure you'll agree. And even if you don't teach CLIL, I think there was an awful lot for everyone in that particular presentation. Thank you very much, Aleksandra. Another warm round of applause, please, for Aleksandra. And just A reminder, if you are interested in coming to speak to Aleksandra and asking those questions, that's room 3B at 11:05. Thank you very much. Thank you.